Diablo, Medivh with Leyline Seal. When are you going to play that, fan? That's the real question. When are you going to show us the Bunny Hop Diva?
I mean, you know, maybe you'll see it at mid-season.
You can't say maybe. I talk to all these pros, and they all look at me and they go, yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. Is maybe the new no? Do I just tell me straight
they
up?
Just
be honest.
don't want to be rude to you.
It's not rude.
What they're trying to say is, Tim, you're crazy.
Are they saying that, fan?
I mean, I just can't tell the other teams there, you know. If we're going to play it, I can't be spoiling it right now.
Okay.
They're only saying it behind your back,
now.
Tim, so it's fine.
Okay. I'm going to trust for the 19th time in a row that someone's actually going to play a composition that we've discussed. I'm going to put it all on fan here. You will make or break my trust with pro players. I'm throwing that out there.
Tim, you got a murky last week. Okay, shush. Granted, there was nothing on the line, but still, you had a murky.
We did get one.
So great. You're set for a year again.
Well, Zealots and Tricked Esports starts today, and you mentioned Tychus earlier. Tychus possibly being banned now here for Zealots. That's a really different ban for us.
That would be an interesting one that immediately puts pressure on Diablo. So that would be a very interesting start here for sure from the Zealots.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the Tychus banned out, there's only a few other heroes that can efficiently deal with a Diablo pick, but it looks like they do swap to the Garrosh.
Yeah.
The thing is, when Zealots ban out something like Tychus, you have immediately two things that jump to mind. The first thing is, of course, that Diablo could be a problem. The second one is they could throw a Cho'Gall your way. So Zealots haven't done that for ages, but if there's a team that pulls that off, it's probably going to be them.
Always that ADRD factor, man. You always have to wonder about it. They haven't even played Cho'Gall, if I remember correctly, at all on the Zealots lineup, but with ADRD being there, you have to think about it in the back of your mind. Yeah, and it's something that, for example, Quacknix has said several times in interviews where he has said every time you have ADRD drafting, you don't know what's coming. There's always the chance that they come in with that weird pick and just destroy everything that you had planned for the series. Now, we've had a lot of Medivh and Abathur first picks here in the HGC. What do you think is so strong about Medivh here, fan?
Medivh just, you know, everything in his kit is really strong. The ability to portal an entire team, you know, one way or the other, or the ability to completely protect someone on a low cooldown. Both of those are extremely impactful. But we'll have to see what happens here. I see a Diablo first ban already. I don't think that's too common, and it suggests that, you know, maybe something is happening in scrims between these two teams.
At least on the European scene, we have seen Diablo banned out. It depends a lot on the teams that play. Against Fnatic, it's a pretty common ban because Breeze is just so good on the hero.
Of course.
And on Infernal, we sometimes see it. But it's definitely interesting to see Blaze with that high of a pick priority, because that's something I could have more so seen on the side of Trick, since Alex really likes to dominate that solo lane. Usually we have him these days with a bit of affinity for Leoric that he started to pick up a bit more often. But Blaze is something that really layers the defense for them. But now we have Zealots coming out with that immediately. And that's actually interesting because we have Zarmany with a very good track record on Blaze. When we're looking at the Zealots, they have 7 wins and 4 losses. 64% win ratio is pretty decent for them. Yeah, Nubrak coming out. Nubrak got a little more popular last weekend. Well, actually, the weekend before that. Last week was more of a fun weekend for us as we were getting some matches figured out. But Nubrak has really allowed for teams to focus on the idea of picking out one target, locking them down, having the root follow up there for Malfurion, and then kill them off right away. Nubrak with Diablo and Garrosh being backed out seems to be the main go-to here for Tricked Esports. Do you think it'll pan out well? I definitely think they can make that work again if they have, of course, the setup. But the aggressiveness that we see these days is like always there. With the Nubrak, you go for one target. You need the burst damage behind it, though. So I'm not quite sure what that's going to be, but they need something to really pack a punch. I would have expected Hanzo to be in first pick, actually, on the side of Zealots, with a priority that we talked about earlier. Sure. It also surprised me that then Trick didn't pick it up immediately, since both of the teams, as mentioned before, have a very high pick rate on Hanzo. Now we have Hanzo and Maiev taken immediately. Fan, I mean, let's talk a little bit about differences in meta in general, or just like what do you think about especially Maiev here? Because we've seen Maiev for a long time more or less ignored in Europe. It was only Team Liquid that played her a bit. And lately, she's just being all over the place and has a huge pick priority. What's happening on the NA side there? Like, how much do you guys prioritize Maiev, and what kind of role what does she offer to the team composition for you?
Yeah, in NA, Maiev is prioritized extremely highly overall, especially you know, for our team. We love to get it if you see any of our drafts. I think at Western Clash was where the switch really happened. It was where, you know, I remember day one, NA was playing Maiev pretty much first pick every single time, and EU wasn't, and NA was getting the better end of that. And since then, I think EU's been picking it more and more. I definitely like the Maiev pickup there. I think it's a very strong hero on Infernal Shrines. You're going to be clumped on Shrines a lot. It makes it easy for Maiev to just get a multi-tether into a big ulti. And as far as the Hanzo goes, I know J-Hal loves talking about how Hanzo has a extremely high win rate overall, but on Infernal Shrines he has like a 40-something% win rate, you know, which means it's his worst map by far.
To be honest, Hanzo isn't really all that successful in Europe. He's currently sitting at a 53% win ratio, which isn't bad by any means. I mean, he wins more than he loses, but he has an insanely high pick ratio. Yep. And depending on the team that you look at, he's actually not doing that hot. Tricked, for example, plays him more so than anyone else, basically, and they have only a 39% win ratio. Zealots has a 48. That's slightly better, but as he said, he's still one of those heroes I feel that adds a lot, but at the same time he can also be exploited just simply because of the hit point pool, for example.
Speaking of adding a lot, look at this Phoenix coming in here. What do you think about Phoenix, Fan? He's starting to get a little bit more popular here in Europe. I know he's been dabbled in North America as well.
I think Phoenix is a pretty strong hero overall. He's tanky, he's got good AoE damage, which will help for the shrines here, but overall I don't like him too much into the Hanzo, but it's a pretty strong pick. I don't mind him there either. One thing that I would like to mention is that with the Anubrak pickup, they can cocoon one person, and generally speaking, you know, because Zealots like Stukov so much, Stukov is not a good hero to save a target, and they're not even going to pick it there, which I think is a good idea because right now they only have their healer plus Blaze to save a target, and if one of those two gets cocooned and their healer ended up being Stukov, Stukov cannot really save anyone by himself. I mean, now they have 2 saves.
The thing is, we have Stukov actually banned out, and that's. But the point is interesting that you make, because for I was just talking about. I was actually trying to talk about Stukov because I think the ban on the side of Tricked is because they're a little bit afraid of what you talked about earlier, that Maiev gets that multi-tether into a silence.
Right.
So you would not value that combo higher than the save potential that Karazim has? You would actually say that if for them it's more important to have Karazim even if Stukov wasn't banned?
Honestly, it just depends on how confident you are on your execution. If you go with the Stukov, it is a higher offense. You can get up Wombo and just kill everything. But if you do not successfully do that, then you can very easily lose the fight if they get a cocoon off on one of your heroes.
Final pickup there for Leoric. I actually want to go a little bit further into the points that you're mentioning before we actually jump into this game. You were talking about Hanzo and Phoenix in that matchup, and you feel like it's a little bit unfavored towards Phoenix. Why do you feel that way?
So Phoenix in general does not have the longest range. Hanzo can outpoke him, and whenever you have a hero that can poke at Phoenix constantly and force his shields to not regenerate, he ends up being not so tanky, and yeah, Hanzo is one of those few heroes that can actually do that to him.
And don't forget about that hitbox too. Gosh, Phoenix, if he gets into that Dragon's Arrow, it's going to hurt the rest of his team pretty well too if they're good, especially with them going with the Medivh here and having the portal set up too. So we'll see how that pans off. Who do you like more for drafts?
I mean, I feel one of the reasons why we have Medivh is also to put just a bit more emphasis on keeping Phoenix safe. We have also on the last pick now Leoric taken, and that was a pick that we discussed earlier since Alex really likes to play Leoric these days. So the double soak is going to be pretty strong for them. To be honest, from a draft perspective, I really feel that what Zealots have here has a lot of aggressive potential with ETC plus Maiev. That's always a great combo. You have a lot of shrine control simply through Blaze too. And of course, you have then also Hanzo with an arrow. You can go into the 7-sided even, so the blow-up potential is pretty huge. From a macro perspective, I kind of like what Tricked has with Medivh and Leoric, but when it comes down to the shrine fights, I would say that Zealots have some really scary tools available to them.
Well, it sounds like we're ready. Before we hop in, Fan, who do you like in terms of the draft?
Yeah, overall, I think the drafts are pretty even. I do give the slight advantage over to Zealots, though, just because I think they will be able to control shrine fights a little bit better.
All right, well, let's go into it here as we hop into Infernal Shrines, Game 1, Best of 5 series. Remember, whoever takes 3 maps here will go against Team Liquid tomorrow. Let's do it. Here we are, Zealots versus Tricked Esport.
Game number 1 kicking off on Infernal Shrines, and over to the left side we have the Zealots in our first game with Shad on Karazim, Chris of course on Hanzo, whereas we have Blaze on, played by Zarmani, ADRD on Maiev, and Mopsio on ETC.
To the right, Crosby playing Phoenix, Alex Aproji on Leo, Make on Medivh, Rimmer on Anubrak, and Grandpa Kid to bring out the roster with the Malfurion. Now, Tricked Esports, will they be on point? Will the coordination be here? Will they be able to find and execute the fights that they want? That is always the question of them every single week. Coming in this weekend, it seems like they don't have too much pressure on them, so expect good matches today.
Yeah, and at the same time, I'm really happy that we are seeing Blaze played by Zarmani again. They were super successful with this setup at the Western Clash. And also in European League play, Zarmani has 7 wins and 4 losses on Blaze. That leaves him with a 64% win ratio with a hero, which at first seems okay, but not really that fantastic if you compare it to other teams. But if you put it into relationship to the average average win rate over across all games they played, it's pretty fantastic because in general the Zealots win 47% of their games. So having a 64% win ratio on a hero just means immediately that any kind of composition they played around the hero has been very impactful for them.
One of the good things about Zarmany, too, is that Zealots really seem to work together on following up those jet propulsions, and they have a prime opportunity to set up a lot of maximum value out of that jet propulsion. They have Maiev being able to move in with that tether, pull in multiple members. They have a Hanzo Dragon's Arrow. As long as Zarmany is able to find those flanks, he should be able to be pretty darn effective on the character. And add on top of that as well, ETC power slides. Pretty scary setup for Zealots.
Yeah, and especially since with the power slide and Maiev, as you said, you can get the slide into the tether or vice versa. You have a lot of fantastic tools here that you can use to blow a target up, and that's something that you really need to respect. Already aggression here at the bot lane as we're seeing the camp being fought over in a 4 versus 4 setup, and so far the Zealots are taking the better trade here and are getting this one. Now, Phil, one of the things that we have to also point out is that with Crosby on his Phoenix, we have seen actually some pretty fantastic play by Crosby on Phoenix in the past. So he was super impactful with the way that he played the hero, also with his level 1, the mobile offense that has been taken now, not going for any kind of stacking on his level 1 talent. But yeah, his play is going to decide a lot in these team fights. Can he really have that impact? Or will Chris be able to put the pressure onto Phoenix, as we heard Fan talk about a bit earlier in that matchup between Hanzo and Phoenix on the other side?
Yeah, we've definitely had a lot of drastic improvement when it comes to our Phoenix players. Crosby in particular, as you were just mentioning, but Nick as well. Looking for him this weekend. You might see him on Sunday play the character. Now, Zealots hit level 4 and go for an aggressive invade on their opponent. Tricked esport realizing this, back up, not being on the same talent tier. Go ahead and give it up for now, and they can fight afterwards once they hit 4, and they do. Remember, immediately goes in with a burrow charge, knocks up Mopsio, but at the same time, Maiev moving in, going for a big tether.
And down is Phoenix. Phoenix goes down here immediately. Very well played by Mopsio. ETC was under a lot of pressure there. It was actually really well done by Zealots because Tricked tried to take ETC down. And instead of moving out of the fight, he saw an opportunity to slide in, get a double stun off, and then from that they were able to get the kill against Phoenix, and thanks to Shad on his Karazim, they were also saving ETC. So really well done by Zealots, not giving into that panic moment that might have occurred there, but then realizing there's a very aggressive way that they can get a kill themselves before they move out of the fight.
It did really feel like Trick needed to get a kill immediately there, as you mentioned, as they were trying to get ETC. With Hanzo sitting there with Scatter Arrow and dropping in arrows constantly, after a few moments, you're going to get to a point where you're getting too darn low, and Trick Esports paid dearly for that. Now, Zealots immediately move over to the middle shrine and jump up 13-1. They're jumping up to 19, actually, as they clear that there. They are heavily ahead as Trick Esports decides not to contest the shrine. They'll go ahead and work on getting experience instead in the bottom lane.
Now, for Tricked, of course, they still have that Leoric factor where you can really just go soaking at the beginning of the game. You get the 2 lanes, and then after 13 and 16 is where you get really a lot of power over those shrines. The 13 talent is such a big power spike for them that they might be willing to delay a few of these scenarios. But once again, there's an attempt to get a bit of pressure done against Tricked. Rema and Crosby are able to move out, but of course, as you already mentioned, the Punisher has been given up, so that's something they have to deal with now.
Zealots bobble around here in the middle lane, setting up for a push. Would love to break down this gate and have a power slide from Mopsio on top of a stun. Nuber activates it over well as Shad goes in, delivers a couple of punches. ADRD gets a pretty decent tether as well. Now I'm watching Mopsio. Mopsio will be the key engage to make sure that Zealots go in for the fight that they want.
Yeah, Shad also with a single target pressure, as we can see here against Phoenix, is trying to put the pressure onto the range damage. And that is just going to be the problem throughout the game. How do they keep Crosby alive? It's not only Hanzo poking, it's also just Karazim being in a position where he can add the extra damage. It might just be enough to push the target and take him down. And in the meantime, we are still now looking at a game in which we're, of course, having Medivh attempting to stack. He's at 32 stacks right now, so Mark actually playing this quite nicely as long as he stays safe until he completes that. But it's definitely going to be an interesting setup now that Zealots are starting to slowly and steadily pull ahead here.
Now, how exactly does Trick Esport explode here? How do they find these kills? Is it a level 10 when they get their heroics online to get those entombs they want?
I mean, the 10 is definitely going to be super important. First of all, we're not quite sure yet what we're going to see around Phoenix. We would expect a salvo, at least on the European scene. Zarmany is here also, surrounded and taken down. Good kill for Trick. But as I was saying, Phoenix is most likely going to go into the salvo, but we have seen a couple of Planet Cracker scenarios. Now, if you try and execute it here, you will have to try and make that happen around an entomb. So there is definitely a world in which we could see it, but traditionally in Europe, it's very much reliant on getting good salvo damage through. But even in that setup, having the Entomb is just working for you. And of course, once we have 10, it's all about trying to use a Twilight Dream after maybe a Cocoon to get these targets. So there's a lot of potential for Trick if they use their cooldowns correctly around level 10. Which
opens the other question for Zealots. Does Karazim consider maybe waiting on picking his heroic until he sees what exactly Phoenix has, just to make sure he has that palm available in case we do go for that Planet Cracker blow up? If that is a possibility for Trick Esports, they're going to be looking to get a kill around that. And if you can just stop that with a palm, it's good for your team.
I mean, one of the big arguments for Planet Cracker that we've heard from Fnatic, for example, is that you can put Phoenix now into a solo lane position, and then having Planet Cracker gives you a global tool that helps you in a fight in the 4-man to have an impact. And we have seen since then Phoenix actually start to appear a lot more in those solo lanes, but that's not the case here. Alex still holds that more traditional solo laner. Marco, by the way, now with the completion on his quest Talon Medivh, so at this point he's going to be pretty happy about that. And we have level 10 abilities for Zealots, so we're going to probably see Karazim hold back his own ult for a bit longer until he makes the decision during the fights.
Zealots has been macroing really well. Already hitting level 10 over their opponent, have a nice cushion of a half a level, grabbing this camp here to the top left to have it pushing in during the spawn of the shrine towards the south, which should be up here pretty soon. Trick Esports trying to do the same, waiting a little bit longer for grabbing theirs, and there it is. It is going to be the Planet Cracker. So Trick Esport is setting up for a Wampa combo. Will Karazim answer back with a palm, or is he going to stick with the 7-sided?
I feel like he still has options for both, but we're also seeing the containment disc now on the side of ADRD, so he's not going into a Warden's Cage, and Alex, I mean, if Planet Cracker is the choice for Phoenix, he has to go into him. I don't think there's a world, and he goes for Entomb. I don't think there's a world in which, with that ult on your range carry, you're actually heading into March of the Black King. I don't think that's going to happen here. So we have the Twilight Dream, we have the Containment Disc that can definitely interrupt some of the plays that we're going to see here. But Shat and Mopsio have not taken their talents yet. And Mopsio could always go into a stage dive here and just try and sidelane it and give some additional macro play to their setup.
Yeah, he picked a backup pedal. It's definitely possible. Just need to see if he wants to have Blaze come in and be that main tank instead. For now, Mopsio holds that front line well as Rimmer steps up and Trick Esports begins to fight over the shrine. 11-3, here comes the Entomb. It's going to be on Mopsio. Mopsio dropping down the heel to make sure he gets that armor in while ADRD moves in and grabs the tether.
There was no follow-up though, and now we're having Zealots starting to move in a little bit more. Here comes the Planet Cracker, not getting too much value here, to be honest. At the same time, Make is now pressured back, but Blaze a bit far out. The aggression is happening as the 7-sided is chosen on the side of Karazim. Here comes the ley line. Karazim already in the air, bunker on the ground to keep the Zealots safe for now, but Trick is dancing very well around it. Alex goes down, but that's a trade they're willing to take if they can get a counter kill.
If they can get Mopsio, and they're looking, they might be able to get him. The auto attacks coming in. Mopsio trying to retreat. The better barb is slowing him down, but Mopsio, thanks to Shadow, stayed alive. With a sliver of health, he might be able to escape. Nope, Crosby jumping over, able to get the kill.
Getting the kill here, and of course trying to set up a second one now too. They still have the control over the shrine, and they're slightly behind in minion stacks, but with the position they have, they should be fine here. Wall of the Water is not saving ADRD, and Entomb is good, and that could be a kill. It's not against Maiev, but they get the kill against Karazim.
Yeah, Shad tried to jump in and get a little bit of pressure pushing towards him instead of his Maiev, and unfortunately it cost him his life. He is down for 20 seconds. Trick Esports will take the time to turn around and focus on the shrine instead.
And it also shows us again the power of Leoric. Of course, with Leoric, you're not going into suicide, but you're trying to make sure that if anyone falls, it's you. Trying to just peel the opponent and focus the attention on yourself. And if you die in that case, and you have a quick counter kill, you can trade, you can go for one trade.
Yeah.
You are going to be back so fast that there's absolutely huge advantage for an early Leoric to die there. And that's exactly what Trick did. Alex knew exactly where to position himself, exactly how to play it. He allowed the kill against ETC for his team as he goes down, and then they are back with 5 after a few seconds, whereas for Zealots, it's a lost Punisher for sure.
Leoric is the Iron Giant. I stay, you go. Sacrificing himself for the gooder, or the better good. Trick Esport now ahead, level 13. They pushed in the middle wave as well, opened up that wall, allowed for the Punisher to push on the bottom, and they will continue to bobble around in the middle as they continue to get up on experience.
And now, of course, with level 13 coming in, we have Ominous Wraith taken for Leoric, and that's really where a lot of the power that Leoric has on Infernal Shrines comes from. So he's going to be the one that is trying to hit that front line. And if you look at what we're seeing on the side of Zealots, he should be able to hit a lot of heroes with that. to just reduce the damage and the power. For Grand Paquette, it's a fantastic talent too. Having Ice Block available here is insanely important against the setup that the Zealots are running. So there's now a lot of good tools for Tricked Esports. And the one thing that would worry me from Zealots' perspective is that at this point they are actually not ahead, because with the setup that they have, you would probably feel a lot more confident if you had a lead already.
Yeah, that you would. Now, Ninja Assassin comes online for 13, so Hanzo a little bit harder to pick off as well. And that means that the Assassins for Zealot should be able to have pretty decent engage or disengages. You look at Maiev, you see Hanzo as well, and then you got that bunker. So Zealots can definitely protect their teammates here. It's mostly Karazim that has to be careful and not get picked out. Tricked Esport groups up as 5. They push in the middle lane, and they're looking to grab that turret as well as they move towards that 16. Still a level and a half away from it, but Zealots are right behind them.
Yeah, heavy pressure from Trick now here in the mid lane. And once again, looking for a potential kill here. We have also still Phoenix with a lot of damage output at this point. Him and Maka, the two that really put in most of the work, 18,000 and 17,000 damage. On the other side, it's Hanzo and Maiev who are delivering the punches. The Zealots still on the defensive here, as Tricked Esports is heavily starting to attack that mid lane and tries, of course, to take that well out. But the defense of Zealots has been pretty strong. Yeah,
that it is. And especially with ETC being here on the top and with Medivh scouting that out, Tricked Esports just pulls away, realizing, okay, there is a possibility for ETC to power slide in, maybe force a fight before we hit 16, and that will allow Zealots to have an even fight. Let's just play it safe.
Now again, they're trying to go for the fountain in the mid lane, Tricked Esports that is, and I think they just took it out. No, they only half. If they get it, that would be huge, because the next shrine is going to be in that mid lane. So if they take that retreat point away from the Zealots, that would be fantastic. But Zealots are currently trying to just shield it as much as they can, and so far they've been able to hold on to it.
Yeah, they even brought Zarmony, who started the Merc Camp at the top left, down to defend that middle lane, and so far they have held it pretty well. They continue to have that well. It's all about the night camps, as we're going to be having those shrines popping up pretty soon for both of our teams. So Zealots on the top left already beginning theirs, Tricked Esports to the top right. We're going to have that pressure.
Now, one of the concerns, of course, is the level 16 talent that Tricked Esports is soon going to get, and this is a big one for them. 16 is one of the biggest power spikes that you can get in the game, and now Tricked is just about to grab it. They also take their own camp, so we're going to have the top lane more or less equalized with the two camps pressuring. Tricked is actually starting to take that down too. And that's going to be the experience that they need for level 16. Zealots, they will hit 16 themselves, but it should at least give Tricked the position on the shrine and also a bit of an advantage in the minion stacks before that's the case.
I mean, 16 hits and Leo's build comes online. Also, and Nubrak becomes more of a threat with Epicenter popping in, the ability to hit more area whenever he goes in for that burrow charge. If he can hit 2 to 3 members, especially if Zealots come in for a massive engage, could be a great pickup for him. Remember, he has to be careful though. Taking some poke from Hanzo, who is doing really well here. This is where Hanzo can do well on the shrine when that 16 comes online, that piercing arrows.
And it's an absolute even fight now that 16 versus 16. Tricked has actually not grabbed as many minions as I thought they would be able to do, especially with Hanzo getting a Scarrow array in there and stealing a lot of these minions away. 31 for the Zealots now against 9. So Zealots are doing really well here, and Tricked has to answer the question, do we actually want to commit to this, or do we simply let it go and deal with the consequences? And at this point, they're giving the Punisher over to Zealots, even though it's an arcane Punisher.
Chris was legitimately destroying on that shrine. Multiple piercing arrows connecting into Tricked Esports, hitting 2 to 3 members each time, was just enough to dissuade Tricked Esports from even trying to contest that shrine. Zealots now pushing in the middle lane, getting aggressive here with his arcane Punisher.
It's a bit of an interesting choice from Tricked to absolutely let this go, especially since they had the earlier 16. I would really have thought that they were trying to set something up and maybe exploit their better position on the shrine itself. But Zealots getting damage in from behind. Talking from behind, Leoric is just waiting for a flank here. Moving in as we speak, trying to zone Chris here. Reducing the damage on 2, on 3. Here comes Mopsio, though, tries to go in. No mosh pit attempt from him. Punisher is about to be baited a little bit more towards the middle, but the keep is down already.
Keeps him down, but Tricked Esports is able to survive. They'll be able to deal with this Punisher afterwards. Now, I got a question. What's up with these Planet Crackers? 2 of them have been to be almost zoning-like, it feels like, but they don't do enough damage to warrant it being shot in that direction.
Yeah, I really don't know. I would have expected Planet Cracker to be lined up with the Entomb. That was really what I expected with the setup. The last time that we've seen Planet Cracker, we've seen it on the North American side with a mosh pit, and we have seen also a couple of different variations here in Europe just recently with the Fnatic versus Team Liquid series that we talked about earlier. But here, it just doesn't really feel like you have the setup to get the damage output in. And that's something they have to work on. Same time now, though, Alex again pretty deep with his Leoric, trying to just go for the Ghost Walk. And Medivh is trying to keep him alive as the 7-sided comes out, but Alex falls. We have, on the other hand, now the setup that they might need. but the Planet Cracker is still on cooldown.
Twilight Dream, though.
Twilight Dream, and the kill against ETC. Can they make it 2? Zarmany's about to fall, and he goes down. Double kill against the front line for Tricked.
Grandpa Kid delivering the Twilight Dream and the Moonfires to get the kill.
But that's the setup. You know, that's exactly it. If you get such a great ley line and you have the root underneath it, then Planet Cracker gets value. So they really, I feel like Crosby really needs to wait until he has that set up so that he gets maximum value out of it. They got the double kill, but I think they could have even gotten more if the cooldown was available for him.
Well, they're going to grab more here in terms of experience. Breaking open this keep wall. With 3, though, Zelta doing a pretty good job of defending. Leo just feels on back. He's going to soak the middle lane and the top lane. Half Catapult's pushing in. While Tricked Esports spends their time breaking open this wall. And this is an important wall to break down. The next shrine will be towards the south. And if Tricked Esports is able to get that victory, they can go in for a possible keep. But an arrow comes out, and Hanzo deletes Crosby.
Yeah, arrow to the face here right away. Phoenix is dead and Shat now with the body block attempts, but of course with Medivh in the equation, he can just simply portal you out. But that was definitely one of those kills that is going to hurt them a bit. For another 37 seconds, they need to be a bit careful here. We still have both of the teams on even experience, but that one keep that was eliminated in the mid lane was of course a big blow towards Tricked, and they have to be careful here. Well, granted, we have the next shrine starting at the bot lane, and that's where Tricked is even holding on to a fort, so one way or another they should be okay. But as I say that, Zealots are simply saying, you know what, if you show up at the top lane with 2 heroes and Leoric in the middle, we're going to take this one for free.
But these are the type of games that we want to see in a playoff. 4 kills to 5, 19 to 19, moving down to possibly the last Punisher between our two teams, both racing for a level 20. What a great way to start our weekend.
I really don't like what Tricked is doing here, though. So one of the things that are currently happening here is that both of the teams are trying to race to level 20. We have both of them on 19, so the idea is take structures down, and with the help of these structures, go to 20. The problem that I have with the situation that we are seeing unfold at this point now, though, is the next shrine is going to be at the bot lane, and Tricked just has opened the wall on the keep, so their position is great. If they get the Punisher, they can, with level 20, maybe even go for core. You're trying to get the keep, if you get a kill, you go for core. But they had their own fort available still, gave that up for free, and then still didn't move back because they basically, I think, decided if we move back now, we don't get anything. If we stay at the top lane, we might be able to get some trade where we can at least have equal experience. The problem for me is Zealots is just moving continuously through the bot lane, and they're just opening up the wall. So all of a sudden, they have a win condition at the bot lane, and Tricked is not reacting to it.
Tricked may believe, hey, if we hit level 20, we got suddenly Leo level 20. This could be our moment to finally get that big victory and get the win here. So let them have whatever they want. Let's hit 20 and win that team fight with Storm Talents. Let's go ahead and move into it as we are unpausing now. Now, the experience is actually ahead here for Zealots as they are sitting at 19.5. But look at Alex Aproji. He has a flank set up here on the bottom.
If they get that, would be great because Blaze is a bit late to the rotation, but he has to get it. And so far the question is, who is he going to get it against? They're trying to see if they can maybe go for Mopsio. Containment has been used, but this is really an awkward position for Tricked. They haven't gotten a lot out of the top. That wasn't a fair trade. Now Cocoon has also been utilized, so that's already one cooldown used. Zealots is nearly on 20. They have taken the wall at the bot lane. There's still a camp that is causing some trouble. Tricked is in a super awkward spot.
They are. Leo's low too, with that camp pushing the bomb, as mentioned, starting to hit the keep. They're trying to force this fight. They move in. Planet Cracker going to be used against the bunker to try and delete it, but Mopsio steps up and knocks Crosby away to interrupt it.
And now we have 20. Any second for Zealots, and the Storm Talents are going to be fantastic for them. So right now, again, an attempt to go for a fight, but the ley line doesn't hit anything. For Tricked, this is just not going well. They need a kill, and they need it soon. They need something here.
It's too telegraphed. Zealots are reading Tricked so well right now, dodging out every attempt for them to move in, dealing with their engages. Now, Entomb comes out and hits Zarmany. The rest of Tricked Esports tries to step up. They want to win this fight before 20 hits. Crosby's low on health. Another containment disc is out.
Bunkers there. 7-sided comes in. Alex Crosby with the attempt for a kill. Mosh Pit. It's not hitting anything since Crosby already moved out. Decent portal for Maki. You don't see these short portals all that often, but it worked extremely well for them here. But Tricked is now deciding to move away. Frozen Punisher has been taken, and now this is exactly the problem that we've been highlighting. With Tricked allowing Zealots to take the fort at the bot lane for free, to take the wall for free, they are going to lose another keep now. And they might lose the game here.
They might. The good thing about Maiev moving into Containment Disc is that it's a 50-second cooldown. It's going to be up again. If Maiev finds that engage that she wants and tries to lock down somebody on the side of Tricked Esports, this 20 will allow Zealots to move in and get pretty darn aggressive, especially with Volt here from ETC. The keep gets focused down. Tricked are doing everything they can to defend. They drop down the silence, getting a couple of members hit, but ETC is able to power slide and buy some time.
Buried alive doesn't really do a whole lot, and the bunker is still there, so Zarmany could use it to counteract Leoric's level 20 talent. And Leoric falls again. He's down, and this time there's no trade value. Already Crosby is on the run, and Shat is chasing him down, but Medivh has died, and that Punisher is walking towards the keep. Zealots are on their way to victory in game number 1. Somehow, Phoenix survives and uses the Planet Cracker here again, but I don't think he can prevent the core from falling.
His level 20 kicked in. Crosby's able to stay alive, but you're right, this Punisher is still healthy, and so is the rest of Zealots. They look towards the core, it's dropping down to 40, down to 30, it continues to fall, and Trick has nothing up their sleeves. That's going to be it here. Zealots get the first win in this best of 5 series.
Zealots take game number 1. Really